What's going on, everyone? MCOC Doc here, and today I have the absolute pleasure of sharing Sunspot with you all. So, I am a new member of the Content Creator Program, which means I'm not affiliated with Kabam or Marvel in any way. This is a program for content creators like myself to receive a champion for a couple days, and then it's given back. But we get to test it out, review, and make content for you guys during those couple of days. So, Sunspot's a very quick one, so I haven't had that much time to test out, but I did do a hour and a half long stream yesterday testing him out. I've tested him out at various times throughout the day as well today, and he is a ton of fun. He has some very high burst damage that is kind of high skill to get to, and it's very rewarding if you do it. If you don't, he loses all of his damage very quickly if you make a mistake. So he's very punishing, but he has this sweet spot that I found of somewhere in like the 100k to 150k. Those kind of opponents where you only need like your solar charges from the very beginning. I'll talk about what that means in a second. But those kind of fights where your ramp up is worth it by finishing off the fight, and you don't have to ramp up again. Is essentially what and this is an R3 5-star max sig level. So obviously a 4-star, or sorry, obviously a 4-star is obviously 4-star is gonna have a different sweet spot than a 5-star R3, than a 5-star R5. They're all gonna kind of have different sweet spots. So that kind of takes a lot of testing, but about 100k to 150k is what I found out for this maxed 5-star, which would be about similar for a maxed 4-star as well. On my calculations, it's 1.1% more powerful as a 5-star R3 in terms of statistics and damage per hit. So, but I'll talk about that hopefully in another video at some point soon. All right, so let's start off here. As always, attributes, nothing special except for 23% critical rating, relatively just above average. His signature ability actually affects his synergies, which is a really interesting thing. So you can see Sig 200 here, and it increases all of his synergies as well based on how high his sig level is as well. So exact percentage, not sure on that, but I assume it's linear. So I'll talk about his synergies after. I just want to start off his abilities. So his dupe ability itself is not necessary. It is a very nice bonus though, and it's obviously going to affect his sweet spot as well for damage. So it's increasing the maximum number of solar charges by 40. So the more solar charges you have, the more you are able to stack up flare states, and then with the more flare states, the more damage you can do on your SP2. That's kind of the basic breakdown, but so solar charges, max 80 unduped, again 120 duped. You're immune to all incinerate effects, and when you would gain an incinerate effect, you will instead gain 5 solar charges. You're never allowed to pass that maximum of 120 or 80. At any point during the fight, you'll just stagnate at it. You will always start the fight with your maximum solar charges, and one charge will expire every 3 seconds. There is another way to expire a charge. Flare state, you have a max stack of 10. Never changed, and there's only one way to get these flare states, and that's through the SP1. So he will maintain flare state, it won't be dropping or anything as long as he has solar charges. And if under the effect of a shock or when running out of solar charges, flare state is disabled and all stacks are removed. So if you run out of solar charges, there goes your flare state, there goes your damage. When his attacks make contact with the opponent, he expends 1 solar charge per hit for each stack of flare state. So if you have three flare states, you're going to be losing your solar charges a lot faster. Those are the 2 ways to lose solar charges. So one expires every 3 seconds no matter what, and also every contact hit for every flare state. Each charge expended, however, will increase the damage of that hit by 589, so that's just under 50%. I think it might be a little bit more. I'm not sure on the numbers of that. But so they essentially kind of work like basic passive furies, where the more you have, the more damage you're going to be dealing. And it does stack as well. So that can be really good if you want to go for maximum damage per hit. And that's what I do on very slow duels that I'll show, where instead of going for a big SP2, then I'll just stack a bunch of SP1s, get as many flare states as I can, and do as much damage in all my hits. And it's very consistent, and you'll also be dealing Incinerates, which I'll talk about in a second. So Incinerates, right here. So when striking the opponent, you're going to inflict an Incinerate for every solar charge expended. So just like how I'm going to extend one solar charge for every flare state, you're going to get one Incinerate for every flare state you have at the time of hitting the opponent as well. So it's the same number of, you're doing the same number of Incinerates as you are losing solar charge. Each one's going to be dealing 100 energy damage for 5 seconds. Similar to Massacre, remove perfect block chance and lower the opponent's block proficiency by 50%. So even if you hit into his block by accident or something like that, you're still going to be dealing a pretty good amount of damage. If a strike fails to apply an Incinerate on the opponent due to chance, or if it's purified, you will gain 10% of bar power and gain 1 solar charge. Now, purification is really important. This means that both through Sunspot's own abilities, you can purify them, but also champions like Kingpin that I'll shrug off, that does count as purifying them. So you're going to be gaining a lot of power there. And you're also going to be keeping your solar charges a lot better. So as he gains power, so the higher power level he's at, the power gained by the Incinerate purification is going to be reduced by up to 57%. So the more you have, the less power you're going to get. Now, his perfect block is his only real defensive ability. So for as long as the opponent is incinerated, well-timed blocks grant 100% perfect block. And the well-timed block can be pretty much chalked up to a parry timing for the duration of his opponent's combo or special attack. Now, this is fantastic for attacks like Winter Soldier's SP2, War Machine's SP1. You're going to block, if you get the parry on those, you're going to block every single hit perfectly, no damage. In addition to that, every time you perform a perfect block, you're going to purify 1 Incinerate on the opponent, which means that you're going to be gaining your solar charge back. So what you see there is I pretty much stagnate at 120, but I also don't lose one during that 3-second window there. You can also see the Incinerates go down from 22 all the way down to 15. One thing you also notice, there's a little bit of power gain there. That's a lot more than you'd normally take from blocking. That's the same thing. The Purify gives you the power gain. Now, while heavy attack charging, you're also going to purify 1 Incinerate for every 0.18 seconds. So you're going to be purifying the Incinerates, which means you're going to be gaining power, and this is a great way to keep your solar charges. He's very parry reliant because of this. The heavy attack is the most consistent way to keep all these charges, so you really need to use it pretty often. This makes him not as useful in Labyrinth Legends, in my opinion. I tried him out against Star-Lord in a quick stream the other day, and it did not go well. You can check that out if you want. I'll be up on the channel for about another week or something like that. But yeah, he's great for something like Realm of Legends, and for that sweet spot fight that I talked about, assuming you can parry and it's not stun immune. But for Limber and stuff like that, this isn't really going to work. And that would require a little bit of smart thinking on how to play him in a situation like that. So his SP1, a very common thing to do for his SP1, I've seen everybody do this so far, and I did it myself during the stream yesterday, is actually chaining it into the heavy attack there. So as you can see, I'm charging up the heavy attack, purifying all of them, and after the first hit, just like with Heimdall, if you saw that video, I just popped the special right away, and it's going to chain right in there. Now, during the SP1, you're going to get an additional stack of Flare State, and the Incinerates inflicted last 9 seconds longer, so that means you have 9 more seconds to purify them and to gain those solar charges back. His SP2 is where the real damage is. Final hit expends up to 15 solar charges. You don't actually need to have those 15 charges. You can be at 0, and those prowess still stay there. So for every stack of Flare State, you're going to gain a prowess effect. It increases the damage dealt by the special attack by 200%. Right there, you see 6. So that's 1,200% increased special damage. I did 55k on just the last hit. I don't know, what were the other hits on there? A 25k, 2 11ks, and a 50k. So absolutely insane damage, and that's just with 6. You can stack up to 10. It's incredibly difficult to stack up to 10, but it is possible. And the damage there is going to be absolutely insane if you can pull it off. This is where his burst potential is. So when I'm using him in that kind of sweet spot fight like I talked about, one of the big things that I'm doing is I'm stacking up SP1s, and then I'm about 5 or 6 right before I'm about to lose them all. Then I'm just going in with an SP2 and pretty much killing them off with that. Now, if you were to lose all your solar charges, this is how you gain them back. So you will recover up to your maximum solar charges. So you're not going to recover, if you have like 40 or something, you're not going to recover 120 and get to 160. You're just going to recover up to that 120 always. You're never going to go below that 120. And for every 20 recovered, you're going to inflict 1 incinerate. But the big thing is that you're recovering all your solar charges. So let's say you have 4 of the flare state. You're back up to 120. So that you can keep gaining more flare state. And this is how you get more than a certain number of the flare state. This is how you kind of continue to gain more flare state charges just by using a bunch of SP3s to refresh your solar charges, as opposed to the incinerates, where eventually you will lose all your incinerates. If you were to perfectly purify every single incinerate, you'll notice that you still lose one every 3 seconds. So 120 times 3, you have 360 seconds before they go away due to time, as opposed to the incinerates. So if you were to perfectly do that, you still have only 360 seconds to get maximum damage if you were to purify every single incinerate perfectly. So that's a really interesting thing to watch out for, to kind of use that SP3 to refresh all of those. Last thing before we hop into some gameplay, synergies, really quickly. So new mutants with Cable and Warlock. Ability accuracy is increased by 30% during special attacks, up to 60% based on Sunspot's signature level. So this would be great for someone like Storm, who applies a debuff on her SP or on a special. Iceman would benefit from this well, just because you're going to be applying more shocks, more cold snaps, and that kind of stuff. Aim technology, so this benefits science champions. This one benefits mutants. This one benefits science. You're going to increase the duration and ability accuracy of any exhaust, fatigue, heal block, petrify, slow, and weakness. Now, one of the interesting things about this is that despite Red Hulk and MCOC being science champions, it doesn't really benefit either of them, unless petrify counts for MCOC's SP1, which I don't think it does. But it is still interesting. If you really want to focus on, say, Void or something like that, this might be a very interesting synergy to pair with him. So the last one that's tied to a synergy level is Avengers and New Avengers. This is his most helpful, in my opinion. So when fighting villain champions, reduce the potency of any power, sting, and damage over time effects, passive or non-passive, so passive and active, by 10% up to 40% based on signature level. So 40% less damage, or 40% less damage from power stings and damage over time is great. Always helpful. So this is just a good synergy to have around. Pluses with Cap and OG Iron Man, so it's not super great activators there, but again, if you have those, then it is a good thing to use, especially if you know you're going to be taking damage over time effects. Decreasing the damage from them by 40% is great. And then finally, an enemies and friends synergy as well. So, spent a while on this. Hopefully it was still interesting since I popped in gameplay. Let's actually hop into some real gameplay, duels, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's do some gameplay. First off, a duel against a maxed 5-star. So he does this fight extremely quickly, not even enough time to ramp up. Honestly, I think he's great for these short fights as well. When I talked about that sweet spot earlier, being about 100 to 120,000 health at the current rank that I've been testing him at. What I mean there is that that's where you get to your SP2 and you get to see the real damage, but he's obviously perfectly fine on shorter fights as well. So I'm going to show some Act 6 gameplay now. 3 fights, all on the same path, with the same global node. And that's going to be long distance relationship. So all those weakness debuffs that you see are going to be reducing my base attack by 10%. So I'm at a 20% base attack reduction, 30%, and it's just going to continue going down. Now Sunspot, however, because his damage just gets so high, he just doesn't care. I'm still hitting for 2k on all those hits. I'm obviously still using my Incinerates, which are very high. I'm up to 5 charges now with 8. I'm going to try and lose a couple of the weakness debuffs to see if I can do a little bit of damage. I mean, he's still only at 50%, and we've done 12 hits minus whatever we got hit for. So we are not doing bad at all. Like I said, I'm just kind of hiding back, trying to get a little bit of regen from willpower as well, but also try and get rid of those weakness. I see the 5th one tag back on after I lost it, so I just decided to go in. Again, heavy into SP2. 11k, 11k, and a 16k. With that, 16k wasn't even a crit, so it would have hit for 30,000 with 5 weaknesses. So that was only 50% of the attack that we could have been doing. Now the same deal with class disadvantage. So the reason I'm fighting this path as opposed to going and finding something that's not this is because I've found that this is actually the right amount of health for him with the weaknesses to be doing this. I tried him out, and I'll show it later, in an Act 5 fight as well, and he was just too quick against a 70,000 health opponent. His damage really is just insane, as long as the opponent is not too big. If the opponent is too small, you're fine, but once they're too big to be taken down with a couple of SP1s and an SP2, then that's really where it's going to be a lot more difficult to play him. Again, all I'm doing is I'm just spamming that SP1, getting those parries so I can take back those Incinerates for power, and then using my SP2. Interesting thing there is that because I use my SP2, he has a lot of Incinerates still on him. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm going to pull those Incinerates back so I can keep as much of that damage going for as long as possible. Keep my flare states up, and I keep that extra damage, and I managed to do it that time. And now against Deadpool, I'm going to do something a little bit similar. You see me kind of act very quick on my feet in that fight and this next one here, when I actually miss an SP2. And I have to keep up those flare states without having a lot of Incinerates on him. What you're seeing here, Deadpool would have been a perfect place if I was using it. The mastery, that name escapes me right now, where the more debuffs you stack, then the more reversed healing that they're going to be getting. Petrify would just be exceptional against someone like Deadpool. Basically just reversing all of his healing at the exact same time. And it's a great mastery to use with Sunspot in general. We're keeping weaknesses relatively okay. Now we're up to 5 flare state charges, so I'm going to go for an SP2. So I landed there, and I actually make a mistake. Should be right about here. I think I get hit. I think I'm not sure exactly what I was trying to do here. I'm trying to bait him into there, but I miss it. Now one thing you notice is that I still have 29 charges left. So I'm going to hit him 3 times, get 15, pull back those 15, and actually get a real SP2 off that time. Some pretty quick thinking that I had to do, and luckily it worked out in my favor. Only 42 hits for high health Deadpool. Now for Shrug Off. My god, do I love playing against Shrug Off with him. So Kingpin's going to be shrugging off all their Incinerates, and this is close encounters now. So when I'm close to him, I'm going to be regenning, and when I'm far away, I'm going to be degenerating. So one thing you'll notice is that because he's shrugging off all the Incinerates, which is actually exactly what we want him to do, because that counts as the same as us using our heavy attack and purifying them, so we just get them back, and we don't actually gain any power from him, but against Agent Venom, we do gain power. So it's an interesting interaction there. I don't know why we don't gain power specifically against Kingpin, but we do against Agent Venom, and I will show an Agent Venom fight in a little bit. After a full Winter Soldier duel, I have a lot of gameplay, but you can see that how many of the solar charges that I'm able to keep just because he keeps shrugging off the Incinerates and I keep getting the charges back. We're able to now throw an SP2 with 4 and just absolutely nuke him. So 23k with no crits at all during that special, and we still just absolutely nuked him. So this is Act 4, Act 5, Chapter 4. This is a 70,000 health Vitality Venom pool, and it's still too short a fight for Sunspot at R3. He absolutely just nukes this guy, and that's the term I'm going to start using for Sunspot because I absolutely love it. We're only up to 3 charges so far, and he is already at less than 50% health, up to 4 now. Like I said, 70,000 health should not be going away this quickly. It's just absolutely insane what he can do in just a very short amount of time with this specialized playstyle that is a ton of fun to play on its own. So how many hits was that in total? I believe that was only 28. That's it. Next up, that Act 6 that I was talking about. So this is No Retreat Venom. So the only damage I'm going to take this fight is from No Retreat itself. You can see that every time his Tenacity triggers, unlike Kingpin, we're actually gaining that power because of the Shrug Off. I missed, so I did 2 dodges there, which is why we're degenerating. And normally against Venom, you'd be able to perfect block his special, and I do try to do that once here, I think. But you can see the perfect block triggering just on a regular block. We're up to 4 Flare State charges now, and we still have over 100 solar charges. We're doing perfectly fine. There we go. Perfect block. I blocked everything except for when the Incinerates ran out, because then I couldn't perfect block him. 4 charges, and he's dead. SP2, easy. Absolutely killed right through him. How many hits was that? Only 36. So this is probably the worst thing that can happen. You can see I have 8 charges. I purify a bunch. My last 2 hits happen. I get rid of 16 charges, and they're all gone. That 3-second timer kind of cut me out there. This is one of the biggest mistakes you can make while playing Sunspot. Just losing all your charges, you lose all your flare states, and it can happen a lot if you don't pay attention like I didn't. It requires a lot of knowing, okay, so 16, even with 25, 8, and 16. So I just lose all of them so quickly, and we're out, and now I lose all 8, I lose all my damage, and it's a real shame. I thought I was going to make it, I just barely didn't. So now what happens if you do it right? So now I'm going to be doing the same thing with 8 charges on a little bit of a bigger buffer, and we're also going to have him play a little bit nicer here. So I'm not going to hit him. I'm just going to purify those charges off of that SP2. 14, 14, 14, 32, 70,000 crit damage. In total, that special attack, you can slow it down if you want, but I have it written down, equaled 132,746. Just one SP2. And that wasn't even his maximum damage that he's capable of hitting. Some absolutely insane burst damage there. Show the full damage one more time. Again, just heavy attack, put a couple more Incinerates on him. Since we're at 16, if I were to hit him twice, I'd lose them all, so I can't do that. So I use a heavy attack, purify, and that would be 14,000, 14,000, 32,000, and 70,000 in that order, totaling 132,000, just over that. Insane damage. So I'm going to show this 6.2 Drax duel while I talk a little bit about Act 5 and Act 6 and his usefulness in them. So there's a couple of nodes and stuff like this. So this is life cycle. So essentially what life cycle does means that my Incinerates aren't going to do any damage themselves, but because they're still there, unlike Debuff Immune, I can still purify them and I can gain power from them. Life cycle works okay for Sunspot actually. This is a 160,000 health Drax, and we're going to do some pretty good damage against him, even with the Incinerates themselves not doing any damage over time. So this node is okay, but there's quite a few nodes that'll, I think, hurt him by quite a bit. Hurt Locker in 616, I believe, really won't work because you need to be spamming those specials, and that's also why he's a very Suicide's unfriendly champion. Personally, I'm okay with that. Someone who doesn't like to run Suicides, doesn't like the idea of putting a timer on all their fights. I'm okay with spamming the special attacks. So some other nodes he'd be okay against. Icarus would be alright because you're going to be spamming that heavy attack often anyways, so those Furies are going to go away. Backblast would actually put an Incinerate on you, and it would be pretty helpful almost, because then you're going to get more charges. You decide, just nukes Drax there really quick. Does some pretty good damage. Now we're at a charges, so our damage is going to be very low. Just while I finish talking about that. Power Struggle is another big one in Act 6 that really won't work for him, because you need to be in control of your own power. You can't have the opponent tell you when you can get power. And so that's the end of Drax's fight. I'll move on to his champion screen to finish talking about this. So if you're very astute, you'll notice this isn't his champion screen, actually. It's a picture. Sunspot has been removed already, and I'm just finishing up this recording with a couple final thoughts about him. And I just want to finish up what I was talking about Act 6 and Act 5. There are nodes that work and really don't work. Destructive Feedback, you can't parry, and I think that's the last one I didn't mention, but like Hurt Locker, you can't really have it work. Power Struggle, Debuff Immune, there's a lot of nodes that pretty much directly or indirectly counter how he's supposed to be played. Now, there's obviously nodes that will, not really nodes that will boost him, but there's often situations that he will work perfectly in. You saw Vitality, he cut right through that Venom Pool, and obviously he builds do even more if he was a higher health. Just stuff like that. He really has some great damage. He's an absolute ton of fun to play. Animations are exceptional. I love the fire aspect on him. I haven't had a chance to try out Human Torch yet, but I absolutely love it on Sunspot. And as always, I never actually say this, but props to the Kabam animation and character department, because they did a great job with how this guy looks, how he plays, and he is a ton of fun himself. So that wraps up my first content creator video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. I had a ton of fun doing this, ton of fun testing him out on stream, off stream, just playing around with him in general, and making this video. So if you are not subscribed, please be sure to subscribe. I will be talking about Warlock in a couple of weeks. I get to test him out this month as well. And I'll be doing all future champions that they give me to review as well. So it's going to be a ton of fun. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you get to see all of that. And I'll hopefully have it out a lot sooner than the Sunspot one. Didn't have a lot of time on him. Just had him for actually 2 days in total. So that's about it. But ton of fun testing him out just during that time. And I really enjoyed this. Hopefully you do as well. So thank you very much for watching. Have a good one. Subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of stuff. Let me know if you like it. And yeah, I will see you all in the next one. Probably not until at least Sunday, because this is my third video in 4 days. So, peace.